Imagine signing a new tenancy today, only to discover that if you'd waited another 6 months, you could have saved hundreds or even thousands of pounds a year. For years, renting in Britain felt like a one-way journey. Prices kept climbing, competition became fierce, viewings attracted dozens of people, and in many cities, tenants found themselves bidding against each other just to secure somewhere to live. It reached the point where rising rents almost felt inevitable. No matter where you looked, they seemed to be going up. But something unusual is starting to happen. Not everywhere, not all at once, but in parts of Britain, rents are finally beginning to soften. Some areas are seeing more properties available. Others have fewer tenants competing for every home. And in a handful of places, average rents are actually falling. Does this mean Britain's rental crisis is over? Far from it. But it does suggest that the market is beginning to change. So, where is this happening? And more importantly, why? One thing is worth clearing up before we begin. When people hear that rents are falling, they often imagine prices crashing across the country. That isn't what's happening. Nationally, renting remains expensive. In many areas, prices are still increasing. But property markets are incredibly local. Two towns less than 20 miles apart can experience completely different trends. One might still have fierce competition. Another may suddenly have more available homes than prospective tenants. Small shifts in supply and demand can quickly influence rental prices. That's why looking at Britain as one single housing market can be misleading. Instead, it's better to think of hundreds of smaller markets, each responding differently to local economies, new housing, universities, transport, and employment. Those local differences are now becoming much more noticeable. Let's start in one of Britain's most expensive cities, a place where even a small fall in rent can make a significant difference. London. For years, London's rental market seemed unstoppable. Average rents climbed to record levels. Competition became intense. Many tenants renewed contracts simply because moving somewhere else would cost even more. But recently, parts of the capital have started showing signs of change. Not every borough, not every postcode, but enough to catch the attention of property analysts. Why? One reason is supply. Thousands of new apartments have been completed across parts of London over recent years. Build-to-rent developments have added professionally managed rental homes to the market. At the same time, hybrid working has changed where many people choose to live. Some workers who previously needed to commute 5 days a week are now comfortable living further from central London. Others have relocated entirely to surrounding towns and cities where rents remain lower. That doesn't mean London has suddenly become cheap. Far from it. But after years of relentless growth, parts of the market are becoming more competitive. Landlords who once expected queues of applicants now sometimes need to price more realistically. For tenants, that's a significant shift. Another city experiencing something similar is Birmingham. Over the past decade, Birmingham has attracted major investment. New homes, new apartments, new neighborhoods. Developments around the city centre have dramatically increased the number of rental properties available. While demand remains strong, supply has also been growing. That's an important difference. For years, Britain's biggest housing problem wasn't simply demand. It was the shortage of homes. Whenever supply begins catching up, even slightly, pressure on rents can ease. Birmingham isn't suddenly becoming inexpensive, but compared with the rapid increases seen after the pandemic, some areas are beginning to stabilise. And stability can feel almost like a price cut after years of relentless increases. Manchester tells another interesting story. It has become one of Britain's fastest-growing cities. Thousands of apartments have been built across districts like Deansgate, Greengate, and Ancoats. At first glance, you'd expect rents to continue climbing indefinitely. In many neighbourhoods, they still are. But premium city centre apartments are beginning to face more competition from each other. When hundreds of similar apartments enter the market around the same time, landlords often have less room to push prices higher. Some, instead, offer incentives, reduced deposits, free months of parking, flexible contracts. Those incentives don't always appear in official rental statistics, but they reduce the overall cost of renting. That's another way markets soften without dramatic headline-grabbing price drops. Further north, Leeds is beginning to experience its own adjustment. Years of construction have transformed parts of the city. New apartment developments have expanded rental options. At the same time, the city's strong graduate population continues supporting demand. The result is a market that's becoming more balanced than it was immediately after the pandemic. Not collapsing, not booming, simply becoming more competitive. For renters, that's often the healthiest type of market. Because when tenants have choices, landlords must compete for them instead. Perhaps the biggest lesson so far is this: rent doesn't usually fall because demand disappears. It falls because the balance between supply and demand starts changing. And that's exactly what's beginning to happen in several parts of Britain. But the biggest surprises aren't always found in Britain's largest cities. Sometimes they're hiding in places that rarely make national headlines. Take Nottingham. For years, Nottingham experienced the same pressures seen across much of the country. A growing population, strong universities, a busy city centre, high demand for rental property. Yet, recent years have also seen a significant number of new apartments entering the market, particularly around the city centre and the waterfront. Developments that had been planned years earlier are finally being completed. For the first time in a long while, prospective tenants in some parts of the city have slightly more choice. That matters, because when tenants have options, landlords often have to work harder to attract them. Some reduce asking rents. Others include bills. Some improve the property before advertising it. Others become more willing to negotiate. None of those changes make headlines, but collectively, they represent a market beginning to cool. Sheffield is another city worth watching. Unlike Manchester or Birmingham, Sheffield's rental market has often grown at a steadier pace. It's supported by two large universities, a strong healthcare sector, and growing advanced manufacturing industries. Demand remains healthy, but supply has also been improving. New apartment schemes around Kelham Island, the city centre, and other regeneration areas have expanded rental choices. At the same time, some graduates who previously remained in Sheffield are moving elsewhere for work, slightly easing pressure on parts of the market. The result isn't dramatic falls. It's something far less exciting, but often far healthier. A market where landlords can't simply increase prices every year without thinking about competition. Then there's Liverpool. Liverpool has become one of Britain's fastest changing cities. The waterfront continues to evolve. The Baltic Triangle has attracted creative industries. Universities continue bringing thousands of students into the city every year. For a long time, strong demand pushed rents steadily upwards. But new apartment developments have gradually started increasing supply. Some city centre landlords are finding that tenants now compare dozens of similar apartments before making a decision. That changes behaviour. Instead of automatically raising rents, some landlords focus on offering better value, better furnishings, more flexible contracts, included parking, faster broadband. Again, these changes don't always appear as falling headline rents, but they reduce the real cost of renting. And that's just as important. Cardiff is experiencing something similar. As Wales's capital continues growing, investment around the city centre has created new homes and modern apartment developments. Demand remains strong, particularly from young professionals and graduates. But in parts of the market, the rapid post-pandemic surge has begun slowing. The frantic competition that characterized previous years is beginning to ease. Properties sometimes stay advertised for longer. Viewings can be less crowded. Tenants occasionally find themselves with something they haven't had for years. Time to think. That might sound ordinary, but in today's rental market, it's actually quite unusual. Even parts of Scotland are showing interesting signs. Glasgow remains one of the UK's strongest rental markets, but the pace of rental growth has started moderating in certain neighbourhoods. New developments, changing migration patterns, economic uncertainty. All of these factors influence local demand. Markets rarely move in straight lines. They speed up, slow down, pause, then change direction again. That's exactly why predicting rents is so difficult. They're influenced by far more than house prices alone. So, does this mean Britain is entering an era of cheaper renting? Probably not. At least, not nationwide. The truth is more complicated. Most experts agree Britain still doesn't have enough homes. Population growth continues. House building remains below long-term demand in many areas. Mortgage costs have encouraged some people to remain renters for longer. All of those factors continue placing upward pressure on rents. But what appears to be ending is the idea that every part of Britain experiences exactly the same market at exactly the same time. We're entering a far more regional housing market. Some places continue becoming more expensive. Others stabilise. A few even become slightly cheaper. Those differences are likely to become even more noticeable over the next decade. If you're renting today, perhaps the biggest lesson isn't to wait for prices to collapse, because they probably won't. Instead, pay attention to where new homes are being built. Watch which cities are adding thousands of apartments. Notice where large employers are expanding or leaving. Look at transport improvements, university populations, regeneration projects. These are often the forces that quietly shape tomorrow's rental market long before most people notice. Because rents don't change overnight, they change gradually. One new development, one completed apartment block, one employer relocating, one commuter deciding they no longer need to live in the city centre. Individually, these events seem small. Together, they reshape entire housing markets. So while Britain's rental crisis is far from over, the idea that rents only ever move in one direction may finally be coming to an end. And that's a change worth watching. If you enjoyed this documentary, don't miss the next one, where we'll explore Britain's biggest regeneration projects explained, the billion-pound developments that are quietly transforming where people live, work, and invest.